All right, folks, apologies in advance. One of my favorite Office episodes, which I know that I most likely have already mentioned on the podcast, is an episode about the rundown, where Jim has the new boss, Charles, played by Idris Elba, who was so underrated in that particular season, where he comes in and he's got that deadpan, he's this good-looking guy, like real militaristic, and he comes into this circus, which was Michael Scott's Wreckage, right? And Jim, who is pretty much the one that everyone assumes is the stable one, keeps having these mess ups. Like, he wears the tuxedo as a joke, and it shouldn't be a joke, and Charles keeps not getting it. But anyway, I digress. We could talk about The Office all day. I should start a podcast. There's already podcasts about The Office, but I would start a podcast just on The Office. But anyway, there's a scene where Charles asks Jim for the rundown. And he tells him, I need a rundown of your clients. And Jim is like, got it. And then he turns around. He's like, so by rundown, you mean? And then Charles is like, get the rundown. Come on, for the clients. And he's like, oh, yeah, for the client. And he's like pretending like he understands. And then he turns around and he goes, so when I'm putting this together, he's like, Jim, I don't have time to just give me the rundown. I just want to see a rundown. And the whole episode is Jim agonizing about what this could possibly mean in the context of what he's expected to do when he's already on thin ice with this new executive. Now, why is this relevant? Because that happens quite frequently. And I'm going to tell you today why it happens when executives fail to communicate the right way with regard to delegation. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Sam Linton Show, the podcast designed to help you shift your mindset, find your voice, and change your world. Sam is a pastor, coach, and expert communicator, helping leaders and entrepreneurs like you step into their purpose, speak with confidence, and make a lasting difference.
All right. I have been in a lot of organizations where I have had the privilege of leading. And leadership, and by the way, forgive me, I'm battling laryngitis. I'm on steroids, so I'm able to lift, but I'm not able to talk so well. So forgive me for the raspy 900 number voice, but this is what you get. I have been in a lot of organizations where I've kind of been promoted and seen different things happen. I haven't been at a ton. I worked at McDonald's and I was a manager there. I worked at a leasing agent. I worked at an apartment complex. I was a manager there, leasing manager, office manager. I worked as a security guard. I never was a manager there. I think I wasn't there long enough. I worked at Arby's. I was in management training there. So I always would go up. And one of the things that makes managers and leaders and executives, now I've been in an executive role for 20 years and I'm the owner of a business. Now, I'm not saying this to be braggadocious. I'm just saying that this is like such a common area. I want you to see that I feel the pain of this. This is an area that's going to make or break you as an executive. Your ability to communicate to the people that you lead about how they ought to do a thing. So whatever that thing is, it could be a task, it could be managing a team, it could be a big project with a lot of moving parts. Some of them are sequential and some of them happen out of order. It could be a lot of different things. But the way that they communicate, how they delegate, is going to determine the efficacy of that executive 100 times out of 100. It's so important. This isn't going to be the only episode that I devote to this. This is probably going to be a bunch of them. I don't know that I'm going to do them all in order because I'm not that organized in terms of having the ADD enough to do these in order. But I'm going to tell you today where it goes south. And it's just like that episode of The Office. It goes south because of the way the delegation is communicated. Now, there are courses on this. Dale Carnegie has a good system about delegation. They're developing your leadership potential course and leadership training and leadership speaking courses that you can do there. There is Franklin Covey and Stephen Covey with courses like this. There's so many different resources because it's such a big area to mess up. It happens so much. And it really does do a disservice to the people if we don't know how to communicate when we delegate. Because if we don't communicate it right, it's going to end up really bad. It's going to make you look bad. It's going to make them feel bad. It's going to make the organization look bad. And I want to set the tone on this right off the bat. Delegation, a lot of times when people say I don't delegate because I don't trust people, nobody that I have ever met, even people that are, I've had a ton of people work for the church in different roles. I've had a ton of volunteers that I've worked with. I have never met the person who comes to a role and wants to suck at it. I've met people that take advantage of being in a role. I've met people that pad the time clock. I've met people that lie about things. This is character deficiencies, sure. But I have yet to meet the person that wants to do poorly. That they wake up and go, I so desperately want to suck at my job today. Like, if I am terrible at my stuff, it's a good day. Like, I haven't met that person. So as a leader and as somebody that runs an organization, helps run an organization, it's important that I get people to feel like they're winning when they're working, or else they're not going to want to work there. They're going to work somewhere else where they win. If you look at why people leave their jobs, they're not leaving the career. They're not leaving the workplace. They're leaving their leaders. Almost everything that they will cite as reasons why they leave, even in some cases, some compensation things, the reasons have to do with the way the leaders handle them. So again, I'm really in the weeds, but I just want to let you know that this is such an important topic that it bears its own bucket of things that you should binge if you are attempting some sort of an executive leadership role. So with that said, what are the areas that happen? I wrote a list of areas down that happen when communication fails in the delegation area. All right, so that was a long introduction to where we're going to go. So I'm going to spice it up and start right from the beginning. Number one, the first area that we as executives fail when it comes to delegation is being vague. We are vague. So I'll give you an example. You go to someone, hey, will you take care of that event on Saturday? If I say that, would you take care of that for me, that event? Now, I have people on my team that could do that. We just had one of the biggest events that I've ever been a part of at the church. And there were groups of people that organized it. There was one main person, our main operations pastor, kind of the executive pastor of the church, that was overseeing the whole thing. And then there was a team of people that were under him. But for this particular event, there was a couple that were in charge of the entire event. So the first thing that we established when we were setting out the parameters of this campaign directive is who owns that. And if I said to a leader in the church, let's say I said, hey, will you help run this event? And they say, yeah. What they might hear is, will you come at 6 when the event starts, set the table, and leave at 9 when the event ends? That's what they might hear. But in reality, what I want as the executive or as the person that's delegating is I want them to own the thing. Now, I'm not saying you let everybody own everything. I'm just saying that this is an area of vagueness. Hey, will you help me out with that event? Oh, yeah. Okay, and that's the vagueness. Instead, if I said, hey, I want you to take care of every single thing at the event, the ordering of the food, the cleaning, the supplies, the food menu choices, the meeting with the caterer, the meeting with the venue, the meeting with the sound engineer, the meeting, like there was a lot of moving parts. It was literally a banquet with 200 people. It was massive. But because those leaders knew, because of the operations pastor, because he communicated to them what their responsibility was, there was no question. It went off. It was one of the best events I was ever a part of. You know how many church events I've been to in 22? It's atrocious. Do you know how many potluck dinners I've been to in 22? Do you know how much my waistline has grown from going to all these church dinners? It's a lot. But this one was definitely, it was probably the best event. And I've had them in hotels. We had them at the Marriott. We used to do banquets where we would have them dinners for couples, and we did all these different things. We had conferences. This was the best. And it's all because of the way that he communicated to the leaders what their responsibilities were. He wasn't vague. And you can't be either. You can't afford to be vague about what the win is, because it creates a couple things. It creates chaos because people don't know what they're supposed to do. They don't know what their responsibility is. They don't know where so-and-so's responsibility starts and where theirs ends. It creates anxiety because then they're like, I'm probably going to screw this up. Like, I think something's going to get missed here. I think there's a problem and I don't know where to go about it. And so being vague is a nightmare. I'd rather you be over specific and be a little more detailed here about what is expected, not about how to do it. We'll get to that, but be more specific about what is expected than to be vague. Will you take care of that dinner for me? No. Hey, I want you to own every single part of the dinner. All right, so that. All right, get it. Don't be vague. All right. Next one in line is not communicating ownership. Now you're like, oh, I'm the executive. I own everything. No, you don't. You don't. I know you think that. You own the outcome of everything. You own the direction of everything. You own the encouragement of what's going on and the discouragement of what shouldn't go on. But your programs or your departments or your projects should be owned by other able-minded folks who can task themselves with owning those projects. Meaning, whoever owns it is the communication person that you speak to. Now, if the team that you're communicating to doesn't know who owns what of a task, nobody does. So if I say, for example, on our staff, hey, we all have to manage the calendar. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that nobody is going to manage the calendar. What that means is everybody is going to put whatever they want on the calendar, and it's going to be a free-for-all on the calendar until Jesus comes back and he eliminates the calendar and we have to repent for how bad we kept the calendar. But there has to be an owner of the calendar. Our owner in our office, she is the one that puts all the events on the calendar. She logs them, sets them up, puts details out, lets people know who needs to know what. Do we change it? Of course we change it. Do we make modifications after she puts it on there? Of course we do. But she owns the calendar. It's her deal. It's not my deal. So a lot of times people will say, hey, I was thinking about penciling blah, blah, blah in for this event in this building and blah, blah, blah. And we have 3 buildings. We're working on a 4th building now. I say, talk to this lady. She's the one that owns the calendar. Oh, but you're in charge. Nope. She's in charge. I go to her. I check with her. And then I talk to her about what needs to be moved for your event. Excuse me. So she owns the calendar. Teams don't know who owns things, and because of that, nobody owns things. Leaders, you and I, we have leader blinders. We assume, oh yeah, of course, John's the best because he's good with numbers. Sheila's the best because she's good with the people. Erica is the best because she's good with hospitality, blah, blah, blah. And we assume because we see that, but we have leadership blinders on. We don't understand that people don't think the way we do, and that is a crime against our people. Don't assume that everybody knows who owns what. You'll end up with, if you don't state ownership, duplicated tasks. I did. Jerry put that list together. I put that list together. He spent 2 hours. I spent 2 hours. I guess it was 4 hours. There are other people. Oh, somebody else is going to do that, and nobody does it. And then at the end, you have a whole fat mess of finger pointing. This, that. It's like the Spider-Man meme. So you have to explain who owns what, especially if you're managing the team, or tell the team they own it and appoint a person to communicate who owns what and let that happen. All right, so not stating who owns what. Third, this one is the worst. It's the worst. When I get excited like this, it's because I've made more mistakes on this than I'll ever admit to you. Anybody that's worked for me knows that I am I'm the chief among sinners here. All right. So don't think, oh, he's an expert. No, an expert is somebody that has made enough mistakes to know that they're about to make another one. So the next one is not letting them know when you need this. Now, here's why. Some people, some of your team, they move with a different level of urgency than others on the team. And I'll explain. I was talking to someone who, he's on our staff. He's not full-time on our staff, but he's like, I pray that one day he can become full-time on our staff. Like, everybody loves him. He's been with me since the beginning. He was at the church before I was at the church. And he still, because he's so humble, he still considers me his pastor, and he still takes my leadership, even though he's a phenomenally brilliant leader, way more brilliant than me and extremely disciplined and diligent. So he is a person, if you bring an idea to him, and I go, hey, we need to start a ministry where we reach out to the whole church and call them once a month. He will take that and he will start that literally after we have a conversation about it. I called him one time. I was on vacation, and I don't do this anymore because it is a sin. I used to do this all the time, and this is before I had kids. I would go to the beach with my wife, and I would buy like 20 books before the vacation, and I would read on the beach. I would read all day. I would read all night. Oh, I miss this. The kids don't let you read. They have no desire to see you enjoying your kid. Just so you know, spoiler alert, small parenting advice. Your kids do not care if you enjoy vacation. They couldn't care less. They're never going to ask you, did you get enough reading in? Did you get enough sun? Did you get enough sleep? They don't care. All right. So, and of course, if you're a parent, you know this, but, so I used to take a stack of books on the beach and carry a book bag, and I would read these books, and they were church administration books. They were books written by church growth specialists and ministry leaders. So I read a book when I was on the beach about starting a small group system. And I read it like in one sitting. I read fast when I'm reading. I read really fast. I like to read. I'm a nerd. I don't play sports or anything. So again, it's not me bragging. It's me telling you I'm nerdy. So I was reading this. I took all these notes. I called him. I had a 5-minute conversation with him. He's like, dude, you're on vacation. I was like, I know. You know what I want to do? I want to start this group system, and I'd like you to check this book out. I think it would be really cool for the church. Okay, I kid you not. I'm away for like 7 days. I come back, and he read the book. He has an outline. He has leaders he's already talked to about being a part of this. He suggests leaders to be on the inner team that's going to bring this together. And he's like, when can we meet? Because we can start this. Now, he started immediately. Now, I didn't give him a deadline. So I didn't say, hey, maybe don't do this till I get back. But I'd rather try to hold back a racehorse than try to motivate a corpse. You know what I'm saying? Now, on the flip side, I'll have people that I'll have in my office, and they say, hey, I want to start a blah, blah, blah. I want to start a ministry. I want to do this. And they come in, and I'll say, good, what you need to do is do blank, do blank, do blank, and come back and let me know how it is. And crickets. And it's because me. It's because I didn't give a deadline. And their idea is, Sam said I could do this. I'm going to do this. This is going to be my thing. And they put it in what David Allen from Getting Things Done calls the tickler file. It's like, someday I'll do this. It's a someday maybe file that I will get to that. And there's no when associated, so it's in the eternal, it's just eternally nesting in this area. So you don't say when you need it, like when the deadline is. There's a lady that works in my business, Alexandra. She will ask me, like the other night we were working, this is how bad I am at this. I'm doing this podcast today. Well, last night there's something that we need to do for the business, and we were going over it last night, and I said, yeah, will you do that? She goes, I need you to tell me when you need this done by, because I'm going to take as much time as you feel I need to give it. And I was like, okay, next Friday. She's like, okay, that's a pretty tight deadline. So do you see what I mean? Like, I could have said, yeah, we need to do this pretty quick, and she'd be like rolling in at Christmas, and I'm meanwhile sweating bullets because this thing needs done quicker. So my point is, this creates something called crisis management culture, because a leader then will come in and ask the 4 words that will make the spine of every team member stiffen and then shrivel up. And that is that done yet? Is that done? Are we close to that? Is this like, can we have this today? Because now what you have done is you have taken a grenade of executive dysfunction, you lobbed it into them, and you now are making them own a deadline that they were never given. So they will feel behind, and at the same time, spoiler alert, they're going to resent the ever-loving daylights out of you because you wouldn't give them the deadline up front. So the deadline is a gift to them. It's not you micromanaging, it's a gift. Hey, I need that by noon. Not at some point in the future, I need this by Wednesday. We got to have this done by Thursday. We got to have this done by Q2 of 2026. Whatever your deadline is, it has to be articulated more than once. All right? So not saying when you need it. So next. Oh boy, so many of these. Ugh, throw up in my mouth. All right. Every one of these I have. I hope people from the church aren't listening to this because every single one of these I have made so many mistakes about. All right. Delegating without authority. Delegating without authority. Not communicating who is in charge. Now. Okay. So when you delegate, but you don't give them authority to act, what you are doing is twofold. Number one, you are making yourself the bottleneck. So if you say, I want you to take care of that project, you're the one that is in charge of the project. So let's say you've given them ownership. Yeah. Okay, now, you then delegate, but you don't give them the power to pull the trigger. So really, what you're doing is you're just having them hold your hand, and then you're the one that's pulling the trigger in every decision. Instead of they make the decisions and you coach from an up and to the left kind of role. Because if they have to check back constantly, that's not delegation, that's babysitting. You're babysitting. It's not even micromanaging because you already told them they owned it, but yet even though they own it, they can't quite decide how it's run. And so when you do that, you disempower people and they are now just doers. I had the most heartbreaking thing happen to me in ministry is one of the most brilliant leaders in the church. Really gifted in so many ways beyond what I can even talk about. One of the things, if any of you listen to this that are in ministry, two things that you have to start to get really comfortable with if you want to have any longevity in ministry. The first is you have to get comfortable that a lot of the people in your church know the Bible more than you, and it's not a sin. I'll stand on the rooftops and say that. There are people that are supernaturally gifted in knowledge. You should always strive to know as much of the Bible as you can, but then there's going to be people that you're preaching to that are not called to be pastors, but they know the word, they have the supernatural gifting of knowledge, and so you have to get used to you're not the smartest guy in the room. The second thing you have to realize really quickly is you're not the most gifted executively in the room, and most pastors struggle with that. All right. So when I talk about these gifted people, I mean God has really allowed me to minister to a lot of very, very gifted people. And I just stand there and go, how are you here with this circus that and it's just me talking back because I really do enjoy what I do and I love my job. Anyway, so coming back to this, there was a project that I was looking for this person to take on. But the way that we were managing it, the way that I was managing it was not, how do I say, conducive for authority giving. And the message came back to me, well, I would have done this, but I know you're looking more for people to work something and not lead something. Ouch. Throw up in my mouth. This was recent too, folks. So I don't want you to, I really am putting it all online on this podcast. I might make this podcast like a paywall only one because it's making me feel bad, but because I wasn't releasing authority. I was like, okay, go do this and let me know how it goes. Go do this and let me know how it goes. Like, do this and tell me how much this will be. Go back. Well, that's not empowering a leader. That's not giving them authority to make decisions. I'm just letting them dial the phone for me while I hold it. And who wants to do that? That's awkward and it's uncomfortable and it's time consuming. It's making two people do the thing of one. Instead of coaching them and saying, if they run by the decisions, I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this, and you coach them, then you're in a problem. So the constant check back. The delegation then becomes babysitting. You hate it, they hate it, and it's no good. No bueno. All right. Okay. Next one. You assume people that are on the team read your mind. I mean, they have to, right? They know you talk more than any of them. You communicate all the time. They know what you hate. They know you hate that you started the meeting late. They know that you hate that you are behind. They know that you hate the way the numbers look. They know. No, they don't. No, they don't at all. Not even a little bit. Believe it or not, they barely know how they think about things. And yet you expect them to know how you think about things, and you assume it. And if people have to get a degree in mind reading in order to work for you, I assure you they will seek other employment. Now, that's not to say there are times when you should assume, okay, we have a certain standard, but I would rather you be more explicit about what it is that you're expecting of them than instead say, well, of course they would assume that they know. You want to assume that people have intelligence but not knowledge. So you don't assume, like, do you know what a good dinner, do you know what a good piece of chicken tastes like? No, I mean, you know that they know that. But do they have the knowledge of what needs to happen in order for that chicken to be prepared and served to 200 people? Like, that requires you to maybe give a little direction. Okay, we're going to serve the dinner at this time, and we want to make sure people are seated at this time and have the cooks ready. Like, that requires some guidance on the part of the leader, not me, but another leader that's running. Again, we're going back to that banquet. So if you assume they read your mind, then they get no context. And then people will often work hard on something that doesn't matter and fail miserably on the things that matter most. All I really cared about for this project was this. Well, I spent 25 hours on this project and I produced this. Now you have put them in the no man's land of, I misread your mind, I feel sucky at my job, and you're a bad executive. None of those things are good. So you don't want to assume mind reading. They can't do it. They're not the mentalist. Go look at that episode where the mentalist guesses Joe Rogan's ATM PIN number. It's kind of funny. But like, most people aren't like that guy. They're not reading. They're not looking at body language. They're not looking at cues. They're not seeing what gets your gears ground whenever something happens. They don't see any of that. All right. So assume people cannot read your mind. Do not do that. Okay. Next, make sure that you express what the quality standard is. So this one's a little bit fuzzy, but I'll give you an example. Don't tell someone to have something completely ready and be done if you are just wanting like a draft with some ideas. Like, so I'm going to go back. We're in the middle of this campaign, this capital campaign. We're trying to raise money for the new building of our church. So you don't want to tell someone, oh, can you get me a commitment card drawn up? They might think it's polished and ready. All you're really looking for them to do is to give you the idea of maybe what the elements are in that commitment card, like what's on the lines, like how do people fill it out, like what should be included, what should it look like. So like, you have to communicate what the quality expectations are so that way they're able to deliver on the quality that you are giving them. So if there's no clarity, the deliverable will be wonky. And you have to make sure you're clear. We have a media team that there's a guy on there that's working his face off right now because we have a lot of media, a lot of different things going on. And when I communicated about things that needed done, I misstepped on a lot of communication. I didn't communicate, okay, I wanted this like church ready, a couple times, and not, oh, I just wanted a draft. So then what happens is it causes an emergency. Oh, no, we needed this ready today. When in reality, again, we're back to the no deadline. I didn't say that. I just said, oh yeah, work on this, right? So it's the same thing. You have to communicate exactly what the quality is. I know this is kind of a vague one, but I'm trying to be as specific as I can. So you make sure that the quality outcome, the output, is what it is that you want. Let me see a couple more of these. Okay, this is a humongous one. Oh boy. Oh, do I hate this. I've done this so infrequently. Okay, not quality controlling their understanding, not checking for understanding. So again, to call it back to Jim at the beginning of the podcast episode here with the rundown, when Idris Elba says, I want the rundown, and he's like, got it, rundown. Yep. How do you want that for? Just give me the rundown, Jim. Just give it to me. All right. He failed, not Jim, but Idris Elba, Charles, failed in not saying, okay, do you understand what I mean by rundown? Do you understand what I mean by how I want that formatted? Do you understand how much time I want you to spend on this? And check for understand. Just that. Like, tell me how you're going to work this, or tell me what you get from this, because I've been vague. When I do this, I'm not terrible at this. I don't do it as frequently, but when I do it, I'll usually ask them, I'll say, look, I'm foggy here. So I said a lot. Like, are you good on everything? You want to just kind of read back like what I'm expecting you to do? And I do this a lot with my boss, the other pastor. When we have a long conversation, sometimes we'll have a 20-minute task-oriented conversation followed by a 40-minute everything but the kitchen sink type of conversation. You have work relationships like that. So at the end of the call, I will usually reverse engineer this and go, okay, so just to be clear, what you're needing is blank. You need it by this, and you need it done this way. And I circle to the beginning point of the conversation where I ask him to make sure that I understand. So again, I put it on myself. You don't assume that people are dumb. You don't assume just because they're nodding that they know what you're talking about, but you want to assume by saying, hey, I know I covered a lot. Okay, just repeat back to me. How are you tackling this? Or what did you want me to do? And this way, it helps you to get them to galvanize in their mind whatever delegation you needed from them. So you don't want to miss out on this. In a retrospect, in a lot of ways, I find myself either over or under explaining, which you don't want to do. So you want to give them some agency in that conversation where they can put it in their own words what this looks like. Okay, so just to be clear, what are you responsible for? So I just want to make sure I want to rehearse this for me so I know what I did. Now, there are tools that will help you to do this, not the least of which is a tool called Otter AI. It's an AI transcription meeting recorder. Of course, you need people's consent. You can't just be recording, tell people I'm recording. Your native iPhone right now, you can record a conversation and then it'll generate a transcript that you can put into ChatGPT and have it give me all the points that we talked about, and then you could send it as a memo. That puts it back on you. But when it comes to communication, it helps a lot if you just ask them for a quick, repeat this back to me. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. I have a lot that I threw at you. It's a lot. And you make them the bigger person, not you. Not you, oh, I gave you a lot and you're too. No, just go, I'm all over the place in my brain. I know we have a lot going on. You have so many projects. What are you doing with this? You give them the opportunity to vocalize, and then they'll feel more confident bringing it into completion. They'll feel more confident owning it. And so that's a really, really big thing. I'm so tired. I wrote too many of these things. Okay. All right. I just don't want to say these ones because I'm so bad at this. Okay. Another one is you wait to delegate and you wait until you're overwhelmed. So you don't want to delegate out of urgency. You want to delegate out of strategy. Ooh, that should be written down. Don't delegate out of urgency. Delegate out of strategy. Yeah, delegate out of urgency. I'm going to write that. That just came to me because oftentimes you delegate out of urgency. You have an emergency that comes up. You have something that got dropped. You have an emergency in your company. You go, okay, John, come in here. Here. I should have had you working on this months ago, but by today I need you to come up with a spreadsheet and get a presentation written and you have literally just killed John. Like, he is going to drop over dead because you have given him an emergency because you refuse to delegate strategically. Instead of looking at the task as it was and thinking that 2 months from now this is going to be a situation that is explosive and cataclysmic, you have now planted it solely on John, squarely on John's shoulders, and you are now forcing him to do something that is inhuman. He can't add hours to the 24 that he's been given. He has the same 24 as you, bro. He doesn't have any more. And your delegation to him is now an urgency because you know you're not going to be doing it. So what happens when this happens is the people that are working with you get destroyed. And they feel like, to use a term that AI generated for me, they feel like they're catching falling knives. And it's all under this guise of stress. In 2014, we were working on a big project. I was working with one of our creative folks. And I said, I need you to design this logo that goes and opens this sermon series we're doing. And she was like, sure, no problem. She's a designer by trade. She went to school for this, phenomenally gifted, really brilliant with how computers work, way more smart than me. Again, get used to it if you're in ministry. God's going to constantly show you how many more people are kingdom smarter than you. It's just, it comes with the package. So the lady, she's like, oh, I did this. Well, it was like an hour before the church service started. I was about to preach. And I said, well, make the logo animated. And she was like, make it animated? And I said, yeah, you have to animate it. It's going to go in a video. It's not, we're just showing a picture of it. And she said, I can't. I don't know. I said, we only have an hour. Like, we only have 1 hour. Like, I can't animate. I don't know how to animate it. This is before AI, remember? So I don't have anybody, I have to learn a computer program. I'm about to preach. It's not my skill set. So I gave her an hour to do something that might have taken like a week for her to learn. Now, she pulled it through because she's brilliant. But my point is, I waited until the highest point of my overwhelm to tell her something she was now responsible for, and it became her emergency. So I shared my stress with her, and I dumped it on her. It becomes confusing. The leader is stressed. Nobody ever communicates better when they're stressed. Like, when I'm tired and stressed, I'm never like, I really killed it with making sure that my body language, I killed it. I really made sure people felt comfortable. And no, you're tired. You're thinking of a million things. You're not going to go well. It's not going to go well. So, waiting until you're overwhelmed is a no-no. All right, last one. I'm not doing anymore because I can't handle it. It's too much. And this one is mainly for projects. Doesn't have to be tasks, but projects. Not following up or providing any kind of structure. This is the opposite of micromanaging. This is delegation and not abdication. You just say, oh, just let me know how it is, but not following up or providing structure. I'm going to go back to the couple that ran that event under the executive director we have. All right, so I met with them once. And we had a 2-hour, like less than 2 hours, like 90 minutes brainstorming with the executive director present, where I was just, yes, no, this isn't going to work. That'll work. This is a good idea. That's a good idea. We'll do this. We'll do that. And then the executive leader, the operations director, he's the one that provided them the structure. So my providence to them was essentially him. So he was the one that would check in with them. How's that going? How's the food going? What's your team look like? And so they had checkpoints. When you delegate, sometimes what you do is you abdicate, which is you just kind of drop it and you walk away from it, and then you only own it when it blows up like a grenade. Don't do that. So you want to make sure that you provide some sort of structure where they can check in. Hey, when you get to X point in the project, or it might be date centered by January, let's talk about this. I just had somebody, I said, we'll visit this in January because this is going to be a good time to talk about something like this. So you want to give them the structure so this way they don't have any kind of fear following up and asking you, like, oh, I have to bother this guy because no. You want to make sure that they know that you're available, because more than your knowledge of how to get the project done is important that you offer them your encouragement that they are on the right track. I know that sounds completely woo, but I've dealt with people in just about every kind of industry, from C-suite executives down to boilermakers and steam fitters, and people want to know that they're going in the right direction. And if you as an executive are not providing them with some tent posts of how this is going to look and some ways that they can check in with you without feeling annoying or without feeling like they're asking a dumb question or without feeling like they failed, you are setting them up to be riddled with anxiety. And you're not going to do that because you're an amazing communicator as an executive. So you will give them structure. All right. This is a long one. I'm tired tonight and I felt like I went too long, but I hope it helps. You know the drill. If I can coach you and help you in your business, podcast at SamuelLinton.com. I love talking about this stuff. I love making leaders better because the companies get better when the leaders are better. And I think that you have a lot to invest in for this coming year, and investing in a coach that will help you to communicate like you're a rock star is probably going to be more money well spent like nothing you've ever invested in. So please consider it. With that said, thanks for tuning into the Sam Linton Show. Shift your mindset, find your voice, change your world. We'll see you soon.